as I mentioned, you also have ICMP, Internet Control Message Protocol, and that includes tools like ping. So again, on the assessment, you might see a question that says which protocol has tools such as ping built in, and the answer is ICMP. Now, ping is just a very, very basic tool. And what's happening is I'm sending a series of commands to a device, and hopefully I'm getting a response. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. And I saw when I did my IP config that my default gateway is 10.100.1.254. Well, I'm going to ping that and see what happens. Okay, well, I get a response. So that's actually live on the network. Now, the ping command actually at the command line, you can actually script it to do different things. But if you really want to see what's on a network, there are different utilities that you can get that will go out and ping, an entire range of IP addresses. And I'll show you one of those in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to talk about the ARP command. Okay, the ARP command is another one that's on the slide. And this is yet another tool that I can use to start fleshing out this drawing, my diagram. Okay, excuse me. If I type ARP and I hit enter, it's going to give me a list of commands of, here are the different switches. The one I want to look at is ARP-A. So ARP-A gives me a list of the MAC addresses and IP addresses, the mappings that it has learned over the course of operating on the network. And it has static entries, you can see, and then it has dynamic. The dynamic entries are actually the ones that I'm most interested in, okay? Now, if you don't recall ARP and how that works from Network Plus, I'll give you a real quick review. So let's say that you've got a network. I have got a switch. And on that switch, I've got ports. And let's say I've got a computer connected here, computer A. And then here I have computer B. And here I have computer C. Now, the way that a switch works, and hopefully this is just a review because this is stuff that you should have seen in Network Plus. But let's say that the source IP address, computer A wants to talk to computer C, okay? Well, the source IP address of computer A, we will say is 192.168.1.5. And the IP address of computer C is 192.168.1.4. Now, give me just a second. I'm double checking. I want to make sure. I think there are a couple of assessment questions which might fit in well here. So we might come back to that. So anyway, if computer A wants to talk to computer C, I've got the IP address of the destination. What layer of the OSI model do switches operate in? Does anybody remember? Is it a layer 1 device, layer 2 device, layer 3 device?
Is it layer 2?
It's a layer 2. Excellent. So on the assessment next Friday, you might get a question that says, I just forgot. Hold on. Dang it, I just saw it, but of course. Oh, okay, I see. All right, yep. We're getting to it, it's coming up. So I've got the source IP address 192.168.1.5, and again, a switch. So I've got layer 1 of my OSI model is physical. That's layer 1. Does anybody remember what layer 2 is? Starts with a D.
Data link.
Data link, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And this is where my switch resides. A switch is a layer 2 device. Now, layer 3, and we just had this up here. What's layer 3 of the OSI model?
Network.
Yep, excellent. Okay, so we've got physical, we've got data link, we've got network. What piece of network equipment, what piece of hardware typically lives at layer 3?
Routers.
Yep. And we said that, the layer 3 of the network, or of the OSI model, the network layer, pretty much maps to the inner networking layer of the TCP/IP model, which is where IP lives. IP addresses are layer 3 addresses. Since a switch is at layer 2, can a switch read or understand or operate with an IP address as far as when it makes a decision on where to forward traffic? Is a switch able to use an IP address for forwarding traffic?
No.
No. And the reason why is because that's a layer 3 address. Switches operate at layer 2. What kind of address, and this is the actual assessment question that you would get, is, well, I'm going to ask it this way. What type of address is used at layer 2 of the OSI model for directing network traffic? What is the address we're looking at here? It's not an IP address.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, sir?
Yeah. Oh, no worries. The question was, what type of address is being used at layer 2 for forwarding traffic across a switch? Yep, it's a MAC address. So the MAC address, remember, is the physical address. Okay, and I pulled this out of ipconfig all and put it in my diagram. But the MAC address is the physical address that is burned into the hardware that is communicating on the network. And we're going to say the MAC address for computer A, I'm just going to call it MAC-A, and this is going to be MAC-C. Now, these are actually 12-digit hexadecimal addresses. So if I go back to my command prompt, you can see these physical addresses here. That's what a MAC address is going to look like. But I don't want to write all that out, so I just called it MAC-A and MAC-B. Now, ARP is a very, very important protocol because if I want to communicate with computer C, okay, I've got the IP address, but I need the MAC address in order for me to create the frame, to put the frame on the network and give it to the switch. And a frame looks like this. You have a header and you have a trailer, and then you have your payload. In the Ethernet header, Looking at your comment there, Chris, helps me remember this, which is, yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of remembering it. That's a good way of remembering it. Because that's, I mean, that's exactly what it's doing. But in my Ethernet header, yeah, switches absolutely help with data collisions. And I'll explain that in just a second. In the Ethernet header, I'm going to have things in here like the source MAC address and the destination MAC address. So that way the switch knows which computer to send it to. So what ends up happening is computer A is going to use ARP, and it's going to send out an ARP broadcast. And this broadcast is going to ask, hey, I need the MAC address for whoever has 192.168.1.4. What's your MAC address? This is going to go into the switch. Because it's a broadcast, the switch floods, meaning it sends traffic out all ports. Computer C is going to see that, and it's going to send an ARP reply. Now, and that reply is going to have my IP address is 192.168.1.4, and my MAC address is MAC-C. And then computer A is going to use that. There's an extra step in there, though, and this is where the ARP cache comes into play. In memory, the computer has an area where it stores all of the IP addresses and MAC addresses that it knows about, and that is the ARP cache. Okay, so whenever I want to connect to the other computer, what's actually going to happen, step one, oh, thanks, Joshua. Step one is it's going to check the ARP cache, and it's going to say, oh, do I have the MAC address there? If the answer is yes, then great, we're all good. If the answer is no, then it's going to do the broadcast. Computer C is going to reply. And then when computer A gets that information, it's going to update its ARP cache. And so inside the ARP cache, it's going to put 192.168.1.4, and it's going to say that equals MAC-C. Then at that point, step 5 is it creates the frame. Once it does that, the frame goes to the switch forwards it to computer C, and now they're able to communicate with each other. Now, there's a couple of reasons why this is important. Number one, if this didn't exist, you wouldn't be able to communicate on the network. So you got to have it. But again, we're looking at this from the viewpoint of somebody who's doing reconnaissance. And by looking at the ARP cache, I can see different computers that exist on the network that my computer has learned about. So I know there's a 10.100.1.2. I know there's a 10.100.1.114 and 126 and 201. So I can go back to my diagram and I can put this information in there, and I can start adding computers onto the diagram. And so that way I've got a good visual of what I'm looking for. Discovering the topology like this is known as footprinting, okay? And again, these are just a couple of tools you can use, and they're built into the operating system, which is kind of nice. We're going to look at ARP a little bit more when we get back from break. We're also going to look at some ping utilities. We're going to talk about a couple of other different commands. Let's take a 10-minute break at 6 o'clock Central. 7 o'clock Central. Let's take a break till 10 after, and then we will continue.
Sir, can you put the diagram back up, please?
Yes, I actually meant to do that. Thank you. Yeah, you can see where I pasted the information into that. And while we're on break, I'll start fleshing out the diagram a little.
Well, actually, sir, I meant your whiteboard.
Oh, the whiteboard. Oh, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
sir. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. That one?
Yes, sir.
All right, there you go.
Sir, so on the whiteboard, on the pay under the payload, is that Ethernet header?
Yes.
And then that last one, is that desk mask?
Yeah, it's the destination MAC address. I just abbreviated it.
Okay, destination. Okay.
Yep. Okay. I was asked if we could go over some of this a little bit after class as a review. If you guys want to do that, I'm happy to do it. So just kind of let me know what it is that you want me to go over, and I'm more than happy to spend a little bit of time doing that for you. So just shoot me something in the chat. Let me know what it is that you might be interested in. And yeah, I can go through it if you want me to kind of review the OSI model, or how the traffic works or whatever. I can do that. We can do it. We can do it over a couple of nights too. Whatever works best for you. I'm happy to do that. So just let me know what you would like to see. Let's see. Let's get back over to, we've got the whiteboard up. I'm going to go back to the Visio diagram, and I fleshed it out a little bit based on what I saw just by looking at the ARP cache. I don't know what these computers are. I don't know if they're servers. I just used the server icon because it was convenient to do so. But I went ahead and put their IP addresses and their MAC addresses out there. Okay, so that way I can see what's going on. Now, one thing about ARP, and let me go back to my command prompt. Notice that, I said that the ARP cache maintains a list of IP addresses that have been resolved to MAC addresses, right? I happen to know there's a device out here with the IP address 1.202. It's a printer on my network. I never use it. It's a printer in my wife's office, but I'm going to ping it. If you notice, 10.100.1.202 is not in this list. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to ping it. And then if I do an ARP-A, there it is. So ARP is used to resolve an IP address to a MAC address. And being able to, find this information is important. It's also really important to understand how this protocol works, because later on, we're going to look at different types of attacks and how I can use ARP to spoof, like your default gateway or something like that. And so it's important to understand the mechanics here. So ARP is something that you just need to know about. A couple of other commands just to point out. Let's see, where are we at? I have a lot of screens up. I got to find the slideshow. Here we go. So the route command. So the route command is used to show or display the routing table on your computer. And this will give me, you know, again, it can give me more information that I can use for footprinting, for creating that topology of my target network. And then you have a couple of other commands like traceroute and path ping. TraceRT is the command for traceroute on a Windows machine. And then traceroute spelled out completely is the command for Linux, but they basically do the exact same thing. The traceroute command just gives you kind of the path to get to a remote host. Path ping does the same thing. Or an MTR is the associated Linux command, but it's actually measuring latency, packet loss, and things like that. Now, my network is not good at giving us information with traceroute, but just to show you the route command, if I just type route, it gives me, you know, some different switches and everything. Route print is what I'm looking for. And if I put in route print, this shows me the routing table. And we're not going to go into this information in detail. There's really nothing here that I don't already know from looking at ipconfig and ARP and that sort of thing. But one of the things when I did ipconfig all, I saw that I had a DNS server that was on a different network, this 10.100.0.1. So 10.100.0.1 is on another network. Maybe I can do a trace route to that computer. Now, my network, the firewalls and everything are not really good at that, but it looks like I was able to come up with something here. So I know the name of that computer is ds1.dtginc.net. So I'm going to go to my Visio diagram. And I'm going to put that information in here. So again, just trying to, you know, flesh this out as much as I can and put as much information in here as I can. Now, as you're doing this, there are different tools that you can use. Like I said, the ones we're looking at right now are like route, ARP, ping, ipconfig, route, traceroute, path ping. All of those are tools that are just simply built in to the operating system. Okay. Let's see. When do we look at? Oh, we do look at it here. So I'm going to go ahead. One other thing I'm going to show you is NSLOOKUP. I'm going to go back to the command line. NSLOOKUP is a command that is in Linux, the command is dig. In Windows, it's NSLOOKUP. But NSLOOKUP gives you DNS information. When I did my ipconfig all, I show that 10.100.1.1 and 10.100.0.1 are my DNS servers. So I can go into NSLOOKUP and I can use, you know, one of those servers, and I can get the, you know, I can start pulling again more information. Like I know the name of this server is home.dtginc.net. This is actually my network at home. I should probably create a lab or something for doing this in class, so that way I don't have like would-be, you know, like, hey, I want to try out all of my newfound skills on your network. But anyway, so again, I'm just piecing together my diagram as I go. But NSLOOKUP is a very, very useful tool, and you can find out all kinds of information. So I'm going to issue the NSLOOKUP command, and I'm going to change servers to a public server. 8.8.8.8 is a DNS server for Google. And it's a publicly accessible server. You can use it to do testing and all of that. Another server you can use is 4.2.2.1. That's level 3. 4.2.2.2 is another one. There are a few others as well. But anyway, let's say that I have been hired to do a penetration test or a network or a security assessment for CompTIA. I'm going to test their network and see, you know, how well it's set up. I can go into NS Lookup, and the first thing I'm going to do is type in CompTIA.org. I'm going to hit enter. And this is going to come back and hopefully give me a little bit of information. Well, it looks like it's going to time out a little bit. Let me change servers. There we go. So it looks like the Google server is going to perform a little bit better. So I find out that the root IP address for the root domain, CompTIA.org, is 3. Blah, 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 whatever that is. I just took my glasses off so I can't see anything. I love getting old. So then I decide, you know what are the name servers? So I'm going to hit set type equals NS. And then I'm going to put CompTIA.org in here again. Now I know that the name servers, their DNS servers, are NS1 and NS2. Okay, great. So I'm going to reset that, set type equals any. And I'm going to put in ns1.comptia.org and get its IP address. Then I can do the same thing for NS2 and get its IP address. So it's a DNS utility that will allow me to, just again, get more information. What is the mail server for CompTIA.org? They use Office 365. Anytime you see this protection.outlook.com, that's Office 365. So again, just more reconnaissance that I'm doing, trying to learn as much about the network as I possibly can. If I set type equals SOA for start of authority, then this gives me their primary name server is named Haven. The email address, responsible mail address, is administrator@CompTIA.org. When you look at the start of authority field, that first dot in the, is an @ sign. And then the serial number 9334 that tells me that this zone has been changed 9,334 times. And there's some other information in there as well. So again, just using the tools that are built into the operating system can give you quite a bit of information. Now I'm going to switch over to a different utility, assuming I can find it. There we go. So this is a utility called Advanced IP Scanner. And I'll get you a link for it.
Are you sharing the screen, sir? Because it's still in the same one.
I'm getting there. Give me just a sec. All right, so there's the link, and let me go and get this share up. So the Advanced IP Scanner, this will actually basically kind of do a ping sweep. Okay, it's going to ping a range of IP addresses, and you can see that range right there, 10.100.1.1 through 10.100.254. If I hit the scan button, it's going to start just listing all of the devices that it can find on the network, and it can pull some pretty interesting information. Like you can see that server is an HP server. That 10.100.1.2, I've got the name there. You can see it's a Synology. That means it's a NAS, a network attached storage. I use that as a media server and all kinds of stuff. These are all of the things that are on my home network. A couple of printers. You can see that we've got an Xbox, that kind of thing. And so having a tool like this, Advanced IP Scanner, is free. But again, now I can go in and really start adding to my diagram. And I actually have some information that I can use to start going after some of these devices and see what kind of vulnerabilities exist and that sort of thing. Okay. And this is just a very, very basic scanning tool. You can find different things. Now, this is creating a footprint. Okay, I'm creating my network diagram, my topology. Okay, what if I want to go a little bit further, a little bit deeper into this? I can do that using other tools. And now we're going to start looking at, okay, what are the different systems that are out there and what are they running? Now, there are a couple of things here, like you can see that this is a NAS and it's a Synology disk station. And you can see, you know, I'm running Plex for my media. I wonder what all it'll let me see. Yeah, it's not going to, yeah, if I double click on it, it'll take me there to the web interface, but I can see, you know, different shares that exist, you know, on these 10.100.101. What the heck? Oh, okay, I know what that is. I'm like looking at it going, what the heck is that? That's my wireless access point. Interesting. But no, actually it's not. I'm gonna go look and see what that is. This is my wireless access point. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So, but I could go start looking at these things. One of the tools that is used more than just about anything else when it comes to network reconnaissance is Nmap. Nmap is free. I just put the link in the chat for you. And I'm going to launch it here and share it out. Now, when you look at it, it actually at the top in the upper left, it says ZenMap. Nmap is a command line utility. It's command line only. The graphic interface for it, and you would install it separately, is called ZenMap. And you can download all of these as one, you know, installer package and all that kind of thing. But what Nmap does is it allows you to do a little bit more of an aggressive scan on different devices to find out what's on there, okay? Now, if I look at the types of scans that exist, I have intense scans, quick scans, slow comprehensive scans, all that sort of thing. I'm going to go ahead and do an intense scan, and my target is going to be my network, 10.100.1.0/24. When I do this, the, oh shoot, I need to take the paper out of my printer. One of the things that we're, you know, we talk about when we look at security assessments and pen testing, you know, these tools can be intrusive, and they can cause unexpected results and behavior on the network. Whenever Nmap hits my printer, it starts printing. It prints, you know, just random stuff on pages. And so I'm going to take the paper out so that way it doesn't do that. But I'm going to go ahead and start this scan. It's going to take a little while for it to operate. And so while it's doing that, we're going to go back to the slides and see what's going on. But stand by. Let me go just remove that tray from my printer. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and run this, and we're going to see what all it can find. Okay, and so you can see there where it started, and you can see where, you know, it's starting to do its thing. It's discovering ports and that sort of thing. But it is going to take a little while to run, so we're going to come back to this. So going back to the slides, Nmap, so different IPs, there are different IP scanners you can get. The one that I gave you is Advanced IP Scanner. It's free. It seems to work really well. There are some others out there as well. And then Nmap is probably, like I said, the most commonly used port scanning and interrogation tool. And what it's going to do is it's going to see how each of the devices on the network respond. And it's also going to see what ports are available. And then it's going to interrogate those ports and find out exactly what's going on. And this is where you get into service discovery and things like that. Okay. Service discovery is where you go in and you look at the different ports that are reporting in, or I shouldn't say reporting in, the different ports that the application, that server applications are listening on, and then figure out what those services are. Now, if you see something like TCP port 80, well, that's a well-known port. TCP port 80 is HTTP. It's your basic web server. So if a computer responds on TCP 80, then we're pretty sure that there's a web server running there. Okay, but what type of web server? Well, Nmap can go in and actually look at the banners and things like that and determine what kind of server is there, what kind of web server, the operating system, all kinds of things like that. It's a very comprehensive tool. And like I said, it's probably the most commonly used one out there. And what's nice is that it's free. Now, as far as using Nmap and like knowing the command line switches and things like that, I don't think that's anything you really have to worry too much about as far as the exam goes. However, using Nmap and being familiar with it is really kind of a basic security thing. If you're looking at networks and you want to do security, you need to know how to use Nmap. And so play around with it. Go download it, install it on your computer, and then see what it can do. You will actually, in the labs, you'll use Nmap. So it is something that you'll see in the labs as well. Other commands that exist, you have netstat and nslookup. Netstat will show you the different ports that are open on your computer, and it'll show you the connections that you have. Well, here, let me bring it up in the command prompt. All right, so I have netstat. Whoops, I'm still in nslookup. Okay, so if I type netstat, it's going to start looking at my computer to see what connections are active. And so you can see here that 10.100.1.107 on TCP port 1025 is connected to 162.125.8.20 using HTTPS. So that's TCP, and that tells me it's port 443. Okay, and so there are different, this shows all of the different, systems that I'm connected to and the different ports that are open. Now, as you can see, it takes a little bit of time for this to populate as well. So we're going to let that run in the background, but you need to be familiar for the exam. You need to be familiar with all of these tools. You don't necessarily have to go in and use them, but you need to recognize what they do, and you need to recognize the output that they provide. Whenever you see something like this on the exam, it would be something like what you're looking at here in the screen, where it gives you, the output that the command generates. And then based on that, it will ask you a question and say, okay, well, what do you see here? Is there anything here that is unusual? Well, looking at what I see right now is I have different outbound connections going from my computer to websites. To me, there's nothing there that's nefarious. I don't really have to worry about it. However, again, you just need to be able to recognize what these things are doing. There are some other tools out there. We're not going to go through these. I'll just point them out to you. You can feel free to find these and play around with them. The Harvester is a tool where you can put in a domain name, and it's going to give you a lot of information, pretty much anything it can find with open source intelligence, OSINT. So it's going to look at, stuff that you might be able to pull out using nslookup. It's going to look at, see if it can determine emails and IP addresses and URLs and things associated with a domain name or company name. I can put in a company name. DNS enum is a DNS enumerator, and this will do a lot of the same things that that NS lookup will do, but it does a little bit more efficiently. Scanless, curl, Nessus, these are all tools that, again, you can go and take a look at. You can see in the slide there, they give you a little bullet point about what they do. Now, Nessus is actually one that is, again, very, very commonly used. When we look at the different tools that are out there, looking at Nessus, Nessus is and I'm looking to see, only reason I'm looking at my email to see if I got a response back on that, and I didn't, but that's okay. So Nessus is a tool put out by a company called Tenable, and it is a vulnerability scanner. Okay, and it is a very, very powerful tool. It is also not free. Now, I think there is a free version, a free trial or something like that where you, and I put the link in the chat for you, where you can scan, a small range of IP addresses. But if you want the full-blown product, Tenable Nessus Pro is like $3,000. It's expensive. And there are some other, versions of it available in the book, or I say the book, in Cert Master Learn in your materials. They mention like Nessus Manager and stuff like that. My understanding is that that's been changed. Now it's called Tenable.io, I believe. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Nessus puts out the Tenable vulnerability scanner, and again, very Nessus. Yeah, that's correct. And yeah, I put the link there for Nessus for you guys to take a look at. Very, very powerful scanner. And this will go out and look at your different devices and tell you what kind of vulnerabilities might exist. And so we'll look at that a little bit more here in just a moment. One of the things that, another tool, I should say, that's also very commonly used and very, very useful is Wireshark. Okay, and what we're talking about with Wireshark is a packet capture tool to be able to analyze network traffic. So in the slide there, they differentiate between packet analysis versus protocol analysis. A packet analysis is when you're looking at an individual frame. Protocol analysis is where you look at a stream, of traffic from start to finish. And I'll show you how to do that. But there are different tools that you can use to do this. Okay, and the tool that you'll use to capture traffic on a network is going to be called a packet sniffer, because it's sniffing network traffic. In a Linux environment, there's a command line tool called TCP dump, and this will, capture traffic on the network and record it all to a file on your hard drive. And the file is called a PCAP file for packet capture. So TCP dump will write to the file, and then you can use it to filter and find information in the file. It's a command line utility. It's pretty powerful. However, most of us are visual. Now, if you're a command line warrior, that's great. If you've been operating on this stuff since DOS, like I know we were talking about having, like, I think Cody, was it you, were talking about having a Commodore 64 and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, some of us have been around this stuff for a while, but if you're not really comfortable with the command line, there are graphic tools out there, and probably the most popular one is going to be Wireshark. This is a free utility, and it's very, very powerful. It's very stable, and it works really well. And I'll give you a link here. And I'm going to pull up Wireshark. So let me share out my whole screen here. Where are we? Here we go. So you guys should be able to see the whole screen where we have Nmap, command prompt, the shortcuts on my desktop that probably say way too much about how little of a life I have. Does anybody see my middle screen? Or okay, thank you. All right, so Wireshark, by the way, these Batman games, if you've never played the Batman Arkham series, oh, you're missing out. They're amazing.
Excellent.
Do what?
Those are excellent.
Oh yeah, they're absolutely incredible. I just went through them again because, well, I wanted to. All right, so I'm going to tell it to remind me later, and this is what I want to look at. So Wireshark, I select a network adapter, and it shows me the traffic that's going across the network. And you can see, up here in the upper, like it's already captured 33, 34, 36, 37, 4,000 packets. I can't keep up with it. It's capturing too many. Okay, but this is what Wireshark does. It captures traffic and allows you to look at it. Now, I'm going to launch a, whoa. Huh. So source port 22. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that. Where's this going? Oh, okay. I know what that is. 10.100.1.109. That's the wireless access point. All right, that's fine. Sorry. I saw that anytime it'll flag stuff that looks a little suspicious, like here, this TCP retransmit. If you have a lot of those, that could show you that you have like a send flood kind of attack, and we'll talk about those attacks a little bit later. Anyway, so I'm going to pull up a program called PuTTY, and PuTTY is another utility that is very, very widely used. It's free. I will get a link for you and throw it into the chat, but I am going to telnet to my printer. And I'm going to focus on this right here. So I'm going to hit a question mark, and I'm going to hit enter. And these are all of the different commands that I can issue to my printer to get it to do things. I can do this through Telnet, which is a protocol, a terminal emulation protocol for managing this. You know, Joshua, the Telltale Batman, I've actually got I started the Telltale. It was a little bit different. It wasn't what I was expecting, but yeah, I've only just gotten into it, but yeah, it looks pretty cool. But here I've got all of the different commands that I can issue to my printer. Now I'm going to come back to that. We're going to go back to the screen, and I'm still capturing traffic. I'm at what? 65,000 packets and counting. And I'm going to put in a filter. I'm going to say, I want my Telnet traffic. So there's the Telnet traffic. And Telnet is the protocol I used here in PuTTY to communicate with the printer. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to say follow TCP stream. And it's going to recreate the data in that TCP stream. And so and you can see where it captured that first part of the information. Now, I don't know why it didn't capture the rest. We're going to try this again. Let's go back to Telnet and maybe go up to the very first one. All right. Let me try this again. So I'm going to stop that capture, and this little shark will actually tell it to start capturing traffic. So it's going to do that. Let me clear out my filter. And let me hit enter again, get my menu back up. And hold on, I may be looking at the wrong interface. Hold on just a sec. Oh, there we go. I had to get rid of my filter. All right. I am looking at the LAN switch. That should be right. All right, so there we're capturing packets. And let me start PuTTY again. And let's telnet to the printer. We'll issue our help command to get our list of commands here. I'm going to stop this and then look for my telnet traffic. Try this again. And look at the TCP stream. Interesting. Let me go to my options here. Sorry, I am not sure why I'm not picking up. This should be the correct one. I may have to come back to this. I don't know why I'm not picking up my telnet traffic. But I am seeing more TCP ACK resets. Huh. I'll have to come back to this. I apologize. This is, of course, whenever you try to demonstrate anything, 9 times out of 10, you end up having a problem. So it is not pulling this out of the TCP stream. All right, I will. Well, anyway, I'll come back to this. I'll show it to you. This is actually a TCP 443 packet. You can see all of this is just garbage just because it's encrypted. But I will have to figure out what's going on here and show it to you because I really do want you guys to see it. Because you actually can pick out data that is in the protocol stream. And so I'll have to figure out what's going on. I'm wondering if I'm going across the wireless network. There we go. I was looking at the wrong interface. So this is capturing packets on the network. And I sent a command to the printer. Okay. And, and I've got this information over here. That's not going to get any bigger. Where's my font? Oh, well, I'm spending too much time on this. Anyway, you can see where I typed the help command here, and it came back with my HP LaserJet, the Telnet configuration, and then it gave me a lot of commands. This is the information that Wireshark pulled off the network. And you can see that the information is right there. Anytime you send data across the network and it is not encrypted, you run the risk of somebody being able to eavesdrop on the traffic, recreate it, and see what's going on. Okay, like what if I authenticated? What if I had a username and password, or what if I reset the password on my printer using Telnet and somebody's capturing traffic? Well, then they can see that my password is J71FA, you know, that kind of thing. So ensuring that data on the network is encrypted is very, very important. Otherwise, you're going to end up having problems like this, okay? Wireshark, again, it's free. It's very, very useful. And this is a utility that you'll actually use in the lab. You'll do this kind of stuff. So I recommend, you know, guys, if you're not keeping up with the lab, you really, really need to, okay? Because the labs give you some hands-on experience with the tools, and it really does bring it all home, you know? So anyway, this gives you an idea of like what you can do with Wireshark. I'm going to switch back to the slides. We need to kind of wrap up this section. And yesterday we talked about frameworks. Whoops, hold on. I got to close all these utilities. So yesterday we talked about frameworks, and in the context of what we were talking about yesterday, oh, my Nmap is done. I'll show you this when we get back from break. The context of what we were talking about yesterday with the framework was like the NIST cybersecurity framework. And in the cybersecurity framework, it is like that list of objectives and tasks that you can do to achieve a certain level of recommended security or configuration or whatever. In the context of this slide, we talk about